Hi everyone. In the last class, we have seen the concept of polymorphism. Polymorphism means one form available in many forms. Like a student can act as an audience in a theater, a student can act as a son in the home. Like that, the one method can be available in many forms. We call it as a polymorphism. Okay, generally this polymorphism is of two types. One is static polymorphism, another one is dynamic polymorphism, or we can call it as runtime polymorphism. Static polymorphism are also called as compile time polymorphism. Okay, in static or compile time polymorphism, objects are binded during the compilation phase. One of the best example is overloaded methods. Okay, coming to dynamic polymorphism, objects are binded during runtime, right? How we are providing this feature? By using the concept of dynamic method dispatch concept. Okay, generally polymorphism means uh, right, you are having some kind of methods, we can call it as original methods, which are available in which are available in one class, we call it as base class. And all the overridden methods are available in derived classes. This is a kind of polymorphism. Okay, through the concept of dynamic method dispatch, I can able to achieve runtime polymorphism. Okay, so what dynamic method dispatch is saying? Generally, we are saying that don't create an object for bottommost class, bottommost class, so that we can able to create the memory for all the classes. And if you require any kind of element from bottommost class itself, you can able to access that data. But dynamic method dispatch is saying that don't create an object for don't create object for bottommost classes. Instead, create an object for base class. For base class. So that through that base class, I can able to refer to the required derived class methods. Okay, so meaning that what we are saying here, the subclass objects we are going to assign to superclass objects in dynamic method dispatch. Okay, fine. So let me explain the example for runtime polymorphism. Okay, through a program. Okay, fine. So before that, I will take what I am going to explain. Let me the example which I am going to explain here is, uh, various kind of shapes are there, right? Rectangle shape is there, uh, square shape is there, triangle shape is there. For all these, I want to find out the area. I want to find out area. So for this, I am going to write one program. Okay, generally in the morning class, I have defined various cases. Hmm, various cases. One is this one, and second one, and later the third one. Okay, so those cases, like in case one, what I said, in case one, all the business classes are independent. All the business classes are independent, and execution class is also execution class is following normal procedure to execute all the business classes. That is case one. Coming to case two, all the business classes business classes are dependent, or dependent in the sense they are following polymorphism principle along with inheritance, and as it is following inheritance it is overridden, but execution class is following normal procedure, so in these two cases execution time is more, execution time is more, as well as mm, as well as it is going to take more memory, more memory, and performance is also decreased. Performance is also decreased. See here, I will explain once again. Performance will be decreased, but in case 3, what we are going to do is business classes are following the polymorphism principle, following the polymorphism principle. As it is following polymorphism principle, we are going to override it, and execution class is following dynamic method dispatch. Dynamic method dispatch. Because of all this, case 3 will yield more performance, more performance, and memory will take less, as well as execution time will also decreases. Execution time will also decreases. Okay. Now let us see one by one. First we'll see case 1, case 2, then case 3, then we'll go for uh, case 3 with this example finally. Okay, fine. So what I'm going to do is first I want to copy this. I want to make rename this as find area, find area or areas. Something. Control S, Control V dot Java. Okay, fine. So my execution class name is find area. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to define one class whose class name is figure. Class name is figure, meaning that whether that figure is a rectangle or triangle, square or what. Okay, fine. So this class contains two variables. One is dimension 1, another one is dimension 2. Dimension 2. And I'm going to create one constructor, figure constructor, and it is accepting two parameters, double a comma double b. Right? I can create constructors, and this constructor is what is meant for means I want to assign the values which are given by the user. Dimension 1, dimension 2 equal to b. Right here, I no need to use of this keyword because the formal parameters names and the actual variable values are different. Okay, fine. And then, okay, fine. So let me go for giving an example for case 2 only. So it will be clear for you. Then I will go for taking one rectangle, class name as rectangle, which is extends the figure class. The class. Here, I am going to take constructor once again, which is going to take two parameters, double a comma double b parameter. So see, meaning that I want to pass these values to superclass constructor. Superclass constructor. So for that, what we can do? So to communicate with superclass constructors, I can pass like this. I can use super method. Yes. Meaning that whenever you pass an object to the rectangle, then it will pass to the figure class constructor. Figure class constructor. Okay, fine. Here I want to find out the area of the rectangle. Generally, for a figure, there is no area. Here I want to find area of rectangle. Area of rectangle. So area of rectangle, how we are going to find out? It is going to let us take return something. I want to find out area. I am going to make print something. not out.println, area of rectangle. And simply I am going to return double value, right? Return, I am going to make dimension 1 into dimension 2, simply returning some value. Okay, similarly, I am going to extend one more class called triangle, which is extending the same figure. Here it is going to have a constructor triangle constructor, so that whenever we pass two values with help of a triangle object, then it is going to pass those values to initialize this dimension 1 and dimension 2. This dimension and dimension 2. Yes. Now here also I will create an area, double area, and area of triangle. Okay. Then I am going to make a formula of AB, right? By okay, fine. Now I have mentioned like this. Now I have a question here. Uh, if I want to get the area of a triangle, what I can do? I can simply make an object for triangle t equal to new triangle. I am passing the values, some values like 10 comma 8, 10 comma 8. Okay, fine. Through this object I can call area. Through this object I can call area. Yes. Let's see now whether it is. What is the answer you may expect? First a triangle object is created. So as it is passing double parameter, constructor is there for the double parameter. So it is going to call super AB. What is super AB? The superclass constructor. What is superclass constructor? Figure. So it is going to call here. It is going to assign dimension 1, dimension 2. That dimension 1 and dimension 2 are available logically here. Are available logically here or not? Yes. So I can able to access and I can able to perform some operation, and then I can able to return that values. Return that value. System dot out dot println of, okay, their area is there already, right? Yes, t dot area. Now let us execute first. Java C space find area dot Java. Java space find area. We got right. Area of triangle is 40.0. Fine. So this way you can create the corresponding area of corresponding thing. For example, I want to call rectangle. Same thing I'm going to make. Instead, I'm going to write like this: rectangle rectangle. What will happen here? Something r dot area. I'm going to pass some value like 45. I will get the 45, right? 45, you got the answer. Yes. Now my question is, whatever the thing that I have explained up to here, whatever thing that I have explained here, is it a polymorphism concept? Is it a polymorphism concept? Tell me. Is it a polymorphism concept? Answer is no. Answer is no. Why? See what I said. If I am saying that it is a polymorphism principle, the method should be available in the original class. A method should be available in actual class. That is the principle of polymorphism. Original method should be available in base class, and all the overridden methods should be derived in derived class. So it is not a polymorphism. So to make it is polymorphism, what I am going to do is I am going to append here double area of, I'm going to write something. Hmm. See, even though you are writing this one, there is no use up to here. But I will explain later what is the use of this one. Double area, uh, area of figure undefined here. See, it doesn't return anything. If it wants, it can return 0. Hmm. Now, if I execute, there is no difference between writing that as well as writing, but the result is same, right? But here we have applied the concept of polymorphism. The polymorphism means all the original methods in all the subclasses. This is the concept of polymorphism. Yes, fine. Now, it is also, it is a polymorphism, but is it what concept? It is the see, check here. It is case 2. Case 2 is what? Business classes applying the concept of polymorphism along with overridden, but execution class is what following? It is following normal procedure. It is following a normal procedure. But to make the program as efficient one, and which has to take less memory and less execution time and more performance, I need to use what? Here, uh, here I want to use dynamic method dispatch concept. So I will make this as comments. Okay, so here main method starts execution. Dynamic method starts, right? So to make here dynamic method dispatch is what saying? It is going to say that create an object for base class. What is base class here? Figure. So I am going to create an object for base class figure f. Figure f. For this base class, you can append the subclass objects. Subclass object f equal to new rectangle. New rectangle of 9 comma new rectangle of 9 comma 5. See what happened here. Hmm. What is the output you can expect? See, figure f is a reference variable, reference object. F is a reference object. Reference object. Now, what it is going to do? Hmm. So through this, in the right side of expression, it is create an object for rectangle class. It is going to create an object for rectangle class. So it go for rectangle class, and it is going to check for whether the corresponding construct is there or not. If corresponding construct is there, those values are passed to here. Those values are passed to here. So that dimension 1 and dimension 2 are allocated with the values 9 comma 5. 9 comma 5. Now I will write f dot what I will call as area. Call as area. So you will get the answer as, see, I said whenever subclass object is referred to superclass object, when you call with the superclass object, it is going to refer it to subclass overridden method. It is going to refer it to subclass overridden method. See, what is the answer you will get? You will get the answer as area of rectangle, and it is going to display as written 1 into 9, I mean 9 into 5, right? So I want to display here. Check what happened here. Okay, it is not R, it is F. F is R object is not there. Java space, find area. You got area of rectangle is 45. Am I right or not? Area of rectangle is 45. We are getting the answer. Yes. Similarly, I am going to make F equal to new triangle of uh, what I have given in the previous 10 comma 8. 10 comma 8. Now I am going to once again printing Now we got the answer as 40. See here, area of rectangle is 45 and area of triangle is 40, right? Guys, observe here what is happening. What is happening here? I have created a reference object for figure class, meaning that super class. For this super class, I am assigned a subclass object. So when you call this superclass with respect to this superclass object, it is going to refer to which class object, which class method? It is going to refer to the subclass overridden method. Subclass overridden method. Similarly, right now, what is happening here? The memory is created for this rectangle class. Once this statement is executed, and it will leave this statement, this object is what happened? This memory space is deleted. So memory is efficient or not? Yes. So that memory is available in F. So through that it is going to call. So because of this reason, memory is efficient. So and also see, I mean what I am saying is whenever you referred with some other, right, this contains some address. This contains some address. It I mean here memory created and reference is assign it to F. Assign it to F. Okay, now fine. Now its task is F dot array. It is completed. It is completed. Then that same memory reference is assigned it to one more newly created memory. Then what happened? This memory is destroyed or not? Garbage collected is removed. So memory is efficient. As memory is efficient, and also execution time will also decrease. Performance will be increases. Okay, fine. Now here I am applying the concept of which concept? Dynamic method dispatch concept applied. Dynamic method dispatch concept applied. Dispatch concept applied. Okay, fine. Now I will show why it is dynamic method dispatch. Here you have seen the concepts of one is polymorphism, right? Whatever the methods that you are overriding here, those are all the methods are available in main class. Main class, and we are applying the concept of dynamic method dispatch. So this entire program will call it as runtime polymorphism. Program is meant for runtime polymorphism. Polymorphism. Okay, fine. See, why I am saying that is a runtime polymorphism. See, in runtime polymorphism, what will happen? Objects are binded during runtime. Objects are binded during runtime. See here, I am going to remove this one. I'm going to remove this one. Now, immediately you will get an error. Why? Why? See, I will make a copy once again. First, what will happen is when you call f dot area during the compile time, it is going to refer to which class? Figure class. During the compile time, it is going to refer figure class. During the compile time, it is going to refer to figure class. But during runtime, the object is referred to this class. This class. So that is the reason we are saying that is runtime polymorphism. See, for example, I am removing this one. I am removing this one. You will get an error because during the compile time, it is going to come. It is going to check for corresponding method in which object? F reference. See, you got error or not? Yes. Cannot find a symbol f dot area, meaning that it is going to refer to. It is going to refer to this class, but as it is not here, we need to write, meaning that during compile time it is going to uh, bind it to this method, but during runtime it is going to bind it to this method. Okay, fine. So this is the example program for runtime polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism. So simple definition is, in runtime polymorphism, objects are binded during runtime. It's binded during runtime. Okay, fine. So guys, what I did there, I have taken one class called figure. In that class, I have defined two variables, double dimension 1 and double dimension 2. dimension 2, and I have taken one constructor figure which is accepting two parameters a comma b. Those parameters values I am going to assign it to dimension 1 as 1 and dimension 2 as b value. Then I have taken one method, double area method, double area method, and I have written something. Observe that same thing I have written. Right? But at any time, have you displayed this one? Is there any use of this one? No, there is no use. Of this one. See, uh, this one, as even though I mentioned there is no use of this one, but if you remove this one, what is happening? You will get an error. Why you are getting an error? Because you are using the concept of dynamic method dispatch. So to make use of dynamic method dispatch, I need to define this one. If you are not defining this one, it is also not polymorphism. Okay, but to make satisfy the concept of polymorphism, dynamic method dispatch, the usage is it will take uh, it will improve the performance, right? It will improve the performance. So even though it is improving the performance, what about writing the code without using anything? This one, there is no use of this one. So because of that reason, memory will be increased. So right, and also, as I said, during the compulse time, and it is going to check for what? Syntax errors are there or not. So for that, it is going to take execution time is also more. So instead of that, uh, right, why we need to write this one? Just think about this one. To satisfy the concepts of polymorphism, we are writing this one. But is there any particular procedure which we can remove this one or not? That what we need to think. Guys, observe here. This is an area. Which is what method? That method is defined in rectangle class. That method is defined in triangle method. Meaning that this area property or area method or area operation is common for all the figures or not? Yes. If it is common for all the figures, it is all common for all the shapes. Or if it is common for all the shapes, the question is why we need to define here. Instead, as there is a no use also, why we need to define the complete body also? There is no need. Of defining the body. So instead, simply I can go for defining the prototype. Okay. So as I am defining the prototype, it doesn't make any sense. I am going to make use of a keyword called abstract keyword, so that we are defining to the compiler that this is an unimplemented method. Or it having no body, guys. What it is going to do during compile time? Whenever it called f dot area in compile time, it is going to refer for the figure reference, and it is going to check whether it will exist or not. That's it. It won't check for what is the logic behind it. So it is checking for whether it exists or not. So what we can do instead, we can go for defining it, declaring it and making it as abstract, so that you won't get any kind of errors like this. If you remove this one, you are getting error, right? So to make not to get an error, I'm going to make it as abstract. As in a class, if there exists at least one abstract method, then we need to define that class as abstract class. So the meaning of abstract class is when in a class, if there exists at least one unimplemented method, or a method which is not having any body, then we should have to declare it as abstract method. Why we should have to declare it as abstract method? Because there are no unimplement, there is a method which is exist having an unimplemented method. Unimplemented method. Okay, here I mean, what I want to say is, generally in each and every Java program, right, whatever the Java program that you are going to write, in each and Java program, you must and should have to use the concept of class. Without writing the class, there is no Java program, right? So generally in Java program, whatever the classes that you have seen, all those classes up to now are concrete classes. And there is one more type of classes, those are all called as abstract classes. Abstract classes. Concrete classes means these are the classes which are containing fully defined methods, which are containing fully defined methods. Those classes will call it as concrete classes. For example, let me take one example. Class test. I'm writing something like void show. I'm writing like show test. I'm going to write like void display. I'm making it as a show, sorry, something, display test, something, right? If you take this class, whatever the methods that are there, all these are implemented methods or not? Yes. So this method we call it as concrete method. Concrete method. If all the methods are concrete, then obviously the class is also a concrete class. Concrete class. Now for this class, I am going to define one program driver class, something like J, and for this class I am going to write some program driver, and I can able to create memory for this or not. I can create something like test t1 equal to new test, then t1 dot show, t1 dot display, t1 dot display, meaning that whatever the classes that we have seen up to now, all those are belongs to concrete class only, meaning that wherever you are using a method, those are all the implemented methods. All implemented, right? For every concrete class, I can able to create an object directly, and I can able to call those methods with respect to that object. Okay, fine. Now, what I want to conclude here is, so when we go for concrete classes, right? First, if you observe, when we go for abstract classes, if you check the concept of when we go for abstract classes, guys, observe here. I have defined a method for which figure method. Figure class, I have defined a method called area. Is this area method is common for rectangle or not? Yes. Is this area method is common for triangle or not? Yes. Is this area method is common for square or not? Yes. Yes. So for all those methods, I need to define a method called area method. I need to define a method called area method. So at that time, what you need to do? You need to define one method which is in figure area, but there is no use of defining like this. So at the time, what we can do? We can go for abstract classes. What we can do? We have to identify all the common methods. I mean, we have to identify the methods which are common for all the classes, and I am going to define it as abstract. I'm going to define it as abstract, so that I no need to implement that. Right, guys? Why I'm saying that I no need to implement? Even though it is implemented, there is no use, right? Yes. Even though I have implemented this area method, there is no use that area of figure define. There is no use of that, right? So even though there is an implementation, there is no use of it. Instead of that, why you have to define it, right? So because of that reason, I will go for making it as abstract. So I hope you understood now what is the need of abstract keyword. Abstract keyword meaning that if you want to define common features, for all the classes, or for all the programmers, then I'll go for abstract keyword. Okay. I mean, in addition to this, I will go for adding one thing. For common features for all classes, in addition to that, the programmer or class has to override its own data. Override its own data. Then I'll go for defining it as abstract. See, if I made it as direct, there is some different meaning. There is some different meaning. Okay, because all the static classes, right? Uh-huh. When we go for static methods, because it is common for all the classes, then we'll go for static method. Okay, but here the statement is when we go for abstract method, if that feature is common for all the classes, and if it want to use, if it wants to override that method, then it'll go for abstract keyword. So with that statement, you can say that when you go for concrete classes, uh, if you want to use the features of a class for specific requirement, for specific requirement, then I will go for concrete classes. Otherwise, if it is for common for all, then I will go for abstract classes. Abstract classes. If I am going to define a method which is for a feature which is common for a specific requirement, then obviously what will happen? See here, as I have I have defined a method which is unnecessary this body. So because of this reason, memory is taking more, execution time is more, and obviously performance will decreases. So to avoid all these problems, we'll go for the concept of abstract classes. I mean, so simply I can say that abstract classes are meant for dealing with common features, dealing with common features. That's it. Okay, fine. So okay, fine. Now let me take one more example for more clarity. What I'm going to do is I am having some kind of animals. Let us show that some kind of animals. Here also I will take the case 2 and case 3. I am having an animal which is named as animal only. Animal. Assume that it doesn't having anything. It doesn't have anything, and I am going to define one dog class which is extending the feature of animal. It's extending the feature of animal. Here, I know that it is public. I know that dog can make some sound. Make some sound. So for that, I have defined a method. Public void sound. Hmm. I will write like dog box. Dog box. And I am going to define one class, cat class, which is extending once again the same animal class. Guys, in inheritance, I can able to write this, right? Yes. Public void sound. Then what I can do? Cat meow meow. Okay, it is done. Now I have defined one program driver class something like JK, public static void main string aux, all this I have written. Now if I made something like I am going to create an object for the bottommost class cat c equal to new cat. If I want to call this sound, I will simply make c dot sound. If I want to call this sound, can I call it directly? You have to call with respect to this dog object. I'm going to create an object dog d equal to new dog d dot sound. D dot sound. Here what I did, here I am using any dynamic method dispatch. No, I am using normal process. Then it is comes under what? Case 2. It is comes under case 2. Instead of this one, if I am trying to make it as if I'm trying to make it as uh, dynamic method dispatch, then what will happen? What is the requirement of dynamic method dispatch? Please create an object for base class animal. Object reference is a. So for that object reference, I mean for that superclass object, I am going to refer a base class object, that is a new dog. Okay. Now if I am calling a dot sound, if I am calling a dot sound, what will happen? It is going to produce an error or not? Yes, it is going to produce an error because during the compile time, it is going to check for what? Animal class. In the animal class, is there any sound method? Is there any sound method? Is there? No. Then it is going to produce an error. So to avoid this error, I am going to make one dummy method, public void sound. I am making it as a something normal thing, sound. Normal thing I have written. Meaning that to avoid this error, I made it as a sound. Now, and because of writing this code, this program I will call it as a runtime polymorphism. Because of this dynamic binding, I can able to bind an object like a dog object during runtime. If I made like a equal to new cat, I am going to call a dot sound. During compile time, it is going to bind to this one, but during runtime, it is going to bind to this method. So it is called runtime polymorphism. Yes, up to here it is okay, but think about in the point of performance. Think about in the point of performance. Yes, I have written a method called sound method in the base class. Is there any use of this one? There is no use of this one. So as there is no use of this one, writing this one will take more memory, and also performance will be decreased, and also execution time will be more or not, because during the compilation phase, it is going to check for all kind of compilation errors, so execution time will be more. So here you can observe, sound is an operation which is common for all animals. Then as it is a common for all elements, what I can do, if it is common for all, I can go for making it as abstract. I can go for as abstract void sound. Abstract void sound. As this class is containing at least one abstract method, I can go for defining that class as abstract class. Some name is animal. Okay, so I hope you understood everything. What is the need of abstract classes? Yes. Now let's see first one by one. Uh, what is abstract method? Then we'll go for abstract classes. So the need of abstract classes is clear up to here. If you want to make use of any kind of common features for all the uh, derived classes, then I will go for abstract classes, right? Yes. First we'll define abstract class. So abstract class means it is also a class which is containing some defined methods and some undefined methods. Okay, fine. Some undefined method means it can be like zero undefined methods also. Important one. Zero undefined method also, right? I mean, what are the classes that we have declared we have seen up to here? All those classes you can make it as abstract also. If you make it abstract, there is one advantage I will define, right? If a class, something like test class test, it is having some method like method, it is returning void m1 method, it is returning something, right? There are some defined methods are there. And observe this, there are no undefined methods. Then also I can make this as abstract. If you want, if there is any abstract method, then also you can make it as abstract. That is the meaning of zero undefined methods will also act as abstract class. Okay, undefined methods means which are unimplemented, unimplemented methods, or we can call it as abstract methods. Undefined methods are called as unimplemented or abstract methods, or the methods which are not having any body, no body, then those are all called as abstract methods. Okay, simply we can say that an abstract method is one which is containing only declaration, which is containing only declaration, only method declaration, but it is not containing any body, any body, any body. If it is not containing any body, we can say that it is an also an unimplemented. If in a program, if you see any unimplemented method in a program, if you see any unimplemented method, then just make it as abstract keyword. I mean, in order to make an unimplemented method as abstract method, before that declaration, just make it abstract. Make it abstract, right? What is the syntax of abstract method means? I will write syntax. So you know how to declare a method. That is method name, which is going to accept some parameters, whether it is an undefined, uh, like uh, like it is not without parameters or with parameters. There is no problem. There is no problem, and it is going to return something, return type, and then you need to make it as abstract. Abstract. This is syntax of abstract method. So when we go for abstract methods, if it is not containing any method implementation, will go for abstract methods. Okay, fine. See, in Java methods, whatever the methods that you are writing, all those methods you have to write in inside the class, in inside the class. That's it. So which includes abstract methods also, meaning that all the abstract methods you have to write within the class only. If you are writing outside the class, then you will get an error, right? We have seen the concept like if you write the method outside the class, then you will get an error, right? Similarly, if you write abstract method outside the class also, you will get an error, right? If any method, uh, if any method, if any abstract method is present inside a class, then that class will call it as abstract class. I mean, like for example, there are n number of methods are there, and there is one method which is made as abstract void m method. Then we must and should declare this class is also abstract. This class is also abstract. Okay, fine. So what is the need of declaring this class also abstract means? See, for every concrete class, for every concrete class, we can able to create an object directly. We can able to create an object directly through that object. Through that object O1, I can able to class call some method here. I can able to call some method here. Yes, I can call. But for the abstract classes, we can't create objects directly. We can't create objects directly because if you create an object directly, what will happen? You can call this method m. You can call this m method. But once you call this method m, is there any method for this m method? No. Then it may yield some unnecessary behavior. Unnecessary behavior. So that is the reason abstract methods of class should not create an object directly. But you can make reference, right? So I can make some reference. Something like jk. I can make reference. Okay, that is important point. So for abstract classes, you cannot create objects directly. Okay, like for example, let me take a small example. Hmm. Mm, let me take. There is a method. There is a method which is abstract method which is going to perform some operation. It's going to perform some operation only. So as this method, as this class is containing an abstract class, I'm going to make this class as abstract class. Abstract abstract class, something like operation. Class name is operation, and I am going to make extending this class. I'm going to make as integer sum, which is going to extend, the class name is operation. The class name is operation. Hmm. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to define two variables a comma b, and I'm going to override this one. I'm going to override this one, void sum, void sum one. I'm going to make some kind of operation, yes. Next I'm going to create one more class, that is addition of float sum. I'm going to make some kind of operation here also. I'm going to make float a comma b. I'm going to make some overriding void sum, and I'm going to perform some kind of operation, okay. For all these classes I'm going to make some program driver, uh, something like class l, some class l, and program driver is public static void main string aux. Okay, fine. Now now creating an object, right guys, observe, uh, observe, right, this is achieving what kind of principle? This up to here it is achieving the principle of polymorphism or not? It is achieving polymorphism principle, yes. Because in one class they have given some methods, all those methods only we are overriding, that's it. So that is the reason we are achieving the principle of polymorphism. But if you want to make it as runtime polymorphism, we need to make applying of what kind of concept here? Dynamic method dispatch concept. What is the concept of dynamic method dispatch? I can able to create reference for superclass. What is superclass here? Abstract class. So I can able to create reference for superclass, operation wo. And for this operation wo, I'm going to make a new ISO. Guys, you can execute this program on your own so that you will get very much clarity. Now I'm going to make o dot sum. Now what will happen at compile time? It is going to check for operation class, and it's going to check for whether there exists a method or not. Yes, there exists a method, so there is no problem at all. There is no problem. During the runtime, what it is going to do? It is going to check for this one. So indirectly, the abstract classes of Java are also implementing the concept of polymorphism. In that, we can say that it is a dynamic polymorph principle is also accepting. Why it is saying that we have to define, you have to use only dynamic method dispatch? Because guys, here observe, uh, instead of like I'm referring reference wo, if I made like this, operation wo equal to new operation wo equal to new operation, then you will get an error. What is that error? Object can't created for abstract classes. That is the error, right? Why I'm saying that object can't created directly for abstract classes? Because through this object o, or something like I'm taking it as p, through this object p, if I call p dot some method, and it will comes to this class, and is there any some method is implemented perfectly? No, it is an unimplemented one. Then also you will get an error. So that is the reason Java not allowing directly to create a object for abstract classes, but we can create object for concrete classes. And also we have to think one, you have to note down one important point. Hmm. One important point. Assume that this class also I didn't implement it. This class also I didn't implement it. As I didn't implement it here also, I need to make what? I need to make here also as a abstract. As this class is also containing, this class is also containing abstract method, I need to make this also abstract. Otherwise, you will get an error here also. Okay. So these are some of the important points for abstract classes. I mean, what I said up to now. Something like so whenever you are going to create an abstract class, in that abstract class, uh, I mean all the abstract classes of Java, all the abstract classes of Java contain what features? Common features. Common features. And observe and make a note here. Every method is not like common feature. Amma. Like for example, I want to say one thing. Uh, class animal. Class animal. Class animal. Something like sound is common to all. Abstract wide sound, important point, abstract wide sound. So I made it as abstract because for each and every animal, like dog can implement his own voice, cat can implement his own voice, cow can implement his own voice, like that these are all can implement their own sound. For example, okay, instead of taking it as dog, hmm, hmm, let me take it as goat. Let me take it as goat. Okay, assume that these three only available for me. These three for available for me. Now, for all these, sound is different. So I will go for I will give it to them only directly. So please implement your own sound. I can give. But there are some kind of operations which are common, like here total number of total number of legs total number of legs, right? If I give this as abstract to this goat, cat or cow, all those are same or not? Yes. Why I need to give to them? No need, right? So at the time what I will do, I will make this as implemented method. I'll make this as implemented method, so that total number of uh, legs are 4. Total number of legs are 4 for everyone, even though they override the output is 4 only. Even though they are not overwriting, they will get the output as 4 only. Output as 4 only, right? Now what I will do, I am going to create an reference for animal a, and for that reference I am going to make some goat class, create object for goat class. Now what it will do, whenever I call a dot total number of legs, a dot total number of legs, what will happen? It is going to check for whether total number of legs, I mean during compilation process it is going to check for this one, but during runtime process it is going to check for which class? Goat class. Is goat class contain total number of legs? No. Then go for checking the super class, so it contains 4, so it is going to display that. Okay na? I mean this is what I have shown during explanation of object typecasting. I have explained during object typecasting. Go through that video so that you will get clarity. Okay. So there is no compulsory to override whatever the methods that I have defined in super class. But whatever the method that you have defined as abstract, those should be overridden in the derived classes. Otherwise, there also you should declare it as abstract. So you should declare it as abstract. I mean, all the abstract class of Java contains common features. Common features. That's it. Right? Total number of flags are common, and sound is a common. But when we go for implementable and when we go for unimplementable, I am going to make it as implementable if that feature is common to all. I will go for implementable. If that feature is uh, depend upon type of class, then I will go for unimplementable. Then what I said for hmm, for abstract classes, object can't create directly, but we can create indirectly or not. We can create it indirectly, right? This is what I can create it indirectly. I can create it indirectly. Yes. See, every abstract class must and should have to participate in what? Must and should have to participate in inheritance process. Inheritance process. Otherwise, we'll get an error. So every abstract class must have to participate in inheritance. Okay, and one more important point. I will ask a question for you only. Hmm. Here I made this class as final. Then what will happen here? What is the use of final keyword at class level? If I made a class as final, these features are not inherited to the subclasses. Then how I can able to implement this feature? This feature can't implementable if I made this as final. So what I can say that is these abstract classes I'm making as abstract classes should not belong to final class. Okay, so these are the some of the important points that you need to remember while creating an abstract class. So how we are going to create an object? Simply here, right? I'm going to write. You cannot create an object directly, but you can make it reference, right? That we can call it as object reference of abstract class is equal to what I can do? Object of implementation class. Okay, fine. So I mean simple గా అమ్మ ఇక్కడ రాశాను కదా animal a equal to new code. That is an example for this. And guys, I have a question. If I write some kind of constructor here, animal, some kind of parameter here, is it valid? It is invalid. Why? Because there is no error. You won't get any error. But what will happen here? When you are going to execute this constructor, whenever an object is created for this class, but is really you are going to create an object for this class? No. Meaning that as we are not going to create an object for the abstract classes, so it is not recommended to write. It is not recommended to write programmer defined constructors in the abstract classes. Okay, fine. See, and one more important point here. In abstract classes, abstract static methods are not allowed. Why? You can guess. Abstract static methods are not allowed. If I made a method as static, what you can do? You cannot able to override that method. Even though you are overriding that method, the Java compiler, JVM will look for which method? Actual static method. So that is the reason abstract static methods are not allowed in Java. Okay, so this is all about various kind of important points regarding abstract classes. Okay, now let me show this example once again. Right, what example I have defined? Right, this example I will explain. I will execute this so that you will get a clarity. I made this program. Okay, I will save this once again. I will use a new. I'm going to make a direct program here. as I have explained there itself, right? Three methods. I'm going to write yes abstract subtract. I'm going to say with this name Control C, Control S, dot Java. Main method starts. Okay, fine. Now what I have taken here, I'm going to write directly this one. So you know the reason, right? Why I'm taking it. So I'm going to declare one abstract class, one abstract uh, class name is animal. I made this one method as a abstract because this should be overridden by everyone their own. Even though we implemented this one, there is no use of it. There is no use of it. Okay, that is the reason I am going to make it an abstract. I'm going to make class dog. Class name should be capital dog, which is extending the features of animal. Features of animal, and I'm going to make public void overriding that public void sound. I'm going to write not out dot println of dog sound. I'm going to implement once again as cat sound. I'm going to make it as cat sound. Okay, fine. Now, can we create object for this abstract class directly? Just check. No, it is not possible. Now I will try to create an object for this animal a equal to new animal object for this directly. Now let's see. Java C space is abstract, right? Abstract dot. See what happened? Animal is abstract, cannot be instantiated, but you can make it reference. If you want, you can make it reference. You can make it reference. Guys, up to now, I have written something code here. It is applying the principle of it is act as a polymorphism because whatever the methods that I have defined in the main class, I mean in the uh, actual base class, those methods only I have overridden. Those methods only I have overridden. But if I override some other method, if I write some other method, it is not a polymorphism. Okay, fine. So with this statement, I can write Control J. What I modify anything. Okay, so object creation is not allowed. Okay. So for that I'm going to make some reference animal. Yeah. Animal. Yeah. So through this for this object reference, I can assign base class derived class object or not. Yes. I'll go for a dot doc. A dot doc. Now what is the meaning of this one? Uh, memory is instantiated for doc class. That reference is assigned it to which one? Animal class. Animal object, but it is not done during at compile time. It is not during at compile time. It will done at runtime. Now if I made like a dot sound, that sound, you will get the answer as a dog sound. Variable a is already defined the method again. 26. Okay, fine. Okay, done. It is an error, right? Actually, it's completed. Java space yes abstract. We got right doc sound. So this concept we call it as dynamic method dispatch. Now completely we call it as we call it as runtime polymorphism, meaning that at compile time it is going to check for what this a is an reference. Which reference? animal reference. So it will go for animal class and it will check for method is there or not. Yes, sound method is there. So it will bind to that one during compile time. But during runtime, what will happen? That reference is modified to doc class. So it is going to get a dot sound. If I made a equal to new cat, I made like a dot sound, you will get cat sound. Dog sound and cat sound. So this is an example for abstract classes. Okay, and all up to about abstract classes. Okay, fine. So here you have to know one thing. I have to know one thing. Whatever the examples that I have taken, whatever the example that I have taken, all those examples where I have written abstract keyword I have written in front of a method, in front of a method, or abstract keyword I have written in front of a class. But I have written anywhere in front of a data type? No. Meaning that this is also important. Uh, Abstract keyword can't use for can't use for variables. Okay, fine. Okay. Now, you know the principle, object-oriented principles, right? Among object-oriented principles, one of the principle is abstraction. Abstraction. Abstraction, you know, right? Abstraction means it is a process of it is a process of hiding hiding implementation details. It's a process of hiding implementation details. I mean, it's a process of hiding uh, unnecessary details. Unnecessary details. Or we can say it is a process of hiding internal details also. That is the meaning of abstraction. Meaning that I don't want to show every logic to the user. What the user require? User requires only what he require. He requires the functionality of the program. That's it, right? User requires like a user requires only features. He won't bother about how you implemented, what kind of code you have written. He won't bother about all those things. That defines is an abstraction. Meaning that whatever the essential features are there, those essential features are given to the user, and we won't show how we have implemented that features. How we have implemented that features. Like for example, Amma, when you are sending a message to your friend, when you are sending a message to your friend, what you will do? You will get a box. You will get a box. In that box, you are going to type something, and you are going to make click on a send button. That's it. That's it. This is the feature required for user. This is a feature required for user. But user won't think about, we should not show to the user that how this message is delivered to some other person, or that message is delivered to some other person. User should not know. That defines is an abstraction. It's an abstraction. Or something like you are driving a car. You are driving a car, right? So driving a car means you have to know only what thing. You have to know where the brake is there, how to use the gears, how to use accelerator. All this you have to know, but you don't want to know about how accelerator accelerator uh, works. You don't need to know how accelerator works, how gears are changing, all these you don't want to know, right? You require only the essential features that requires from the user end. Okay, so that kind of thing you can call it as an abstraction. So similarly, in Java also, abstraction concept is there. Abstraction means hiding the implementation details. That's it. Hiding the implementation. So hiding the implementation details in Java, we can achieve it through the concept of abstract classes. Abstract classes. And also one more user defined data type, that is through the concept of interfaces. So through the concept of interfaces, we'll achieve 100% abstraction. But through the concept of abstract class, I can able to achieve only, it's not only, we can able to achieve 0 to 100%. 0 to 100%. I mean, what I can say, see how we are achieving through the concept of abstract classes. Here what I did, I made this class as abstract. I made this class as abstract. That's it, right? Whenever user checks for profile of profile of class operation, what it will show, it will show only some method, but it won't show how it has implemented all those things. So through the concept of abstract classes, I can able to enhance 0 to 100%, meaning that if that abstract class contains all the concrete methods, then we can't achieve any abstraction, that is 0%. If that abstract class, if that abstract class contain all abstract method, then we can achieve it as 100%. So but in the interfaces, everything is abstract. Okay, I mean, here this explanation is not at all somewhat maybe incorrect. I mean, see, if you want to access the data which are present here, you cannot able to access, because even though you know the method class name, you cannot able to create an object for this. You cannot able to create an object for this, because it is an abstract. So because of this abstract, I cannot able to create an object, so that I cannot able to access its corresponding methods. Okay. Here I made one more important point. Hmm. Uh, right. I said already, right? Even though there is no abstract method, you can declare it as abstract. You can declare it as abstract. Now we understood the reason. I will tell the reason. Because if you made a class as abstract, you can't declare object directly. Meaning that if you don't want to give permission to the user to access the methods of a particular class directly, then I will go for making it as abstract. That's it. Yes. So once we go for these abstract classes, we'll have lot of advantages. I mean, uh, it will reduce the complexity. One thing, it will reduce the complexity of the code viewing. Meaning that when we see the profile of abstract class, it will show only that particular thing, right? What are the features that are there in that program. It won't show like everything. Okay. And also it avoids the code duplication. Code duplication and it will increase reusability, right? As there we are using the concept of inheritance, it will increase the reusability. Code duplication, how we are getting, like if you are not using abstract, then compulsory you need to, if you want to make it as applying the dynamic method dispatch concept, you need to make some method should have to write some method body. So that method body we are writing means there is no use. So instead of that, you can make it abstract, so that that code duplication is not allowed. So it will helps to improve security of the application. That is what we are saying, that abstraction, meaning that we are going to show only the important details to the user. That's it. So that is one of the advantage of abstract classes. Okay, so this is what all about the concept of abstract classes. Okay.